Right now, there's a few Pokemon cards which will eventually explode in price, and once it happens, everyone will say, hey, that was just super obvious. Though, before we get into this video, I'm actually gifting this Arbok illustration rare to one subscriber. Now, if I reply to your comment with the Celebi emoji, then well done, this card is yours. And of course, if you are a first-time viewer, welcome to the channel. My name's Phil, and I run this Pokemon investing and collecting YouTube channel. Definitely feel free to subscribe. Though I really think we need to do a deep dive and look into some of these cards, which I feel have approached a real low point in the market for what's being offered. All right, first one we really need to talk about is the Pikachu Special Illustration Rare from Surging Sparks. Now, this card to me, you've probably heard me say it before, but it's just had an interesting journey because it did become the most expensive card from the Scarlet and Violet era straight away. So before this, you know, you had the Magikarp Illustration Rare, you had the Greninja Special Illustration Rare, you had so many cards that were like finding their feet. And what happened before this Pikachu, a lot of people were still looking back at the Sword and Shield era, okay? Because, you know, Sword and Shield had Moonbreon and all those real standout cards, you know, like Giratina V from Lost Origin, you know, the Gengar VMAX from Fusion Strike, all the evolutions from Evolving Skies. People were still so connected to those cards from Sword and Shield. And it wasn't until the Pikachu that people said, hey, wait, Scarlet and Violet is now taking a bit of form. And of course, now a lot of people would say, wait, Scarlet and Violet era is far better than Sword and Shield, which I do agree with at the moment, because I think with all the new cards that have come out, I really do think Scarlet and Violet era has really proven itself. But the Pikachu for me is one that I would be looking out for at the moment. In the last 3 months, if we just go right here, you can see this card was selling for $358 US. But I'm actually going to open this up in the last 6 months so you can actually get a real good overview. If we pull this into the 6 months, you can see the top of the market for this card was $485. That is a super expensive card, right? Then you can see it really has had a sharp decline, currently selling right now for $268 US. Maybe because this card was like the first Pikachu SIR and everyone got so excited. I feel like that had a lot to do with the real big price jump. But now as well, when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, wow, potentially it could go down. But also, don't forget, this card is pretty iconic for the Scarlet and Violet era. I also wouldn't be surprised to see it slowly start picking up again, but of course, it's anyone's guess. Now, when we're looking at the Black Bolt Elite Trainer box, we can see the regular ETB, not the Pokemon Center version, was selling for $219 US on like a pre-release when everyone was really excited for the set. Obviously, everyone heard, hey, Gen 5 cards are coming back. This is super exciting. This means business. And of course, people were paying banana level prices like they usually do. But of course, if you kind of wait and be patient, you will usually get a better price. As you can see right now, selling for $114. I still think that, you know, with the amount of this set that's going to be releasing and, you know, how many people are excited for this set, but also Pokemon knows that way more people are in the hobby, I do think that this will continue coming down, especially because I do think the set is going to be printed for a long time. Same thing when we're looking at the White Flare Elite Trainer box. You can also see selling for $197 when it just kind of got announced and everyone could buy it. But of course, it's had a pretty big sharp decline, selling for $101 US. Now, I do think, you know, this is a very interesting set because don't forget, Black Bolt and White Flare have different cards inside them. This is the first time an English set has been a split set, so you also need to take that into consideration. Now, while speaking about Black Bolt and White Flare and all the upcoming Pokemon sets, if you do want to be notified when these new sets become available, that does bring me to today's video sponsor, which is PokeNotify. PokeNotify is a premium Discord server that alerts you the moment a specific Pokemon product or pre-order goes live. I mean, if we take Prismatic Evolutions, for example, it's been restocking a lot and dropping new items left and right. With PokeNotify, you'll be among the first to know when it's available to order at specific stores. Now, to actually get the most out of the server, it's very good to take the time to fine-tune your notification settings. That way, you only get alerts for the products that you actually care about. Now, if you do just want to try it out, there actually is a 3-day free trial available, and by using my code, you do actually get 25% off your first month. A huge thank you to PokeNotify for sponsoring the video. Now, let's get back into it. Now, moving on to a very, very iconic iconic card. And of course, it is the Magikarp illustration rare. And we can see right there in that 3 months already a recovery has happened. So we can see signs of a recovery happening. I did make a video just previously talking about promo cards. We can all see the stained glass promo cards going up in price. We can see the Greninja Gold Star, the Umbreon Gold Star. All these cards are slowly now rising in a very interesting market. Though we can see that the Magikarp has recovered a little bit. For us to get the best kind of overview of this, I'm going to pull this into the last year. So we can see that the Magikarp was selling for $104. It went all the way up to $276 US. Then it kind of fell down to $190, but you can see just recently, look at that, selling for $236. That's a pretty good recovery in such a short amount of time. Like, look at that in the last month. Right there, we're selling for $190, already on $236. So we can see that collectors are saying, wait, $190 US, that was too cheap for this Magikarp. That's what collectors were saying, and the price kind of recovery has happened. Though, here's the thing about the Magikarp illustration rare. This card to me is an anomaly because it is still an illustration rare. If we look at the pull rates for this card, it's much easier than a lot of the other chase cards in the Scarlet and Violet era. But the reason why this card is also so desired, you gotta remember it is a Shinji Kanda artwork. The artist who created Lost Origin Giratina, which is, and I'm sure when you see these cards next to each other, you can see the similarities, but also you do need to remember it is a Magikarp, so it is very interesting. I think collectors, especially in the Scarlet and Violet era, I've noticed this a lot. People really love Pokemon that haven't been featured as much as others. What I mean by that is, you know, previously it was always about Umbreons, Evolutions, Charizards. They're still super popular, but we can see as well now that, hey, Magikarp is an exciting card for the Scarlet and Violet era. But in terms of the top chase cards, there hasn't been a Charizard. Yes, we have the Umbreon from Prismatic Evolutions, but like I said, and I always say it, that card only kind of got that status because of the Moonbreon. I don't think if that card was a standalone card and Moonbreon had its kind of legacy that kind of upheld it, I don't think it would perform the same way as it's been performing, but of course that's the market we're dealing with at the moment. Now right here is the Greninja Special Illustration Rare. Really cool card. I'm going to pull this into the last 6 months. Now this card's top of the market was $410 US, which is pretty expensive. This card is pretty hard to grade as well. Not as hard as the Magikarp, but it's not the easiest card to get a PSA 10 in either. But just looking at that graph, it's already dropped to $267 US. And like I said, we have had Magikarp have a bit of a recovery. The promo cards are recovering. Does this card still have room to drop? I'm really interested to know your thoughts on this because like when you're looking at something that was $410 and now it's $267, that's really kind of had a big price drop. So the shifts in the market are happening, though again, are collectors getting more picky? Are collectors wondering what other cards are going to be released in the future? I think collectors are trying to really piece it all together. Yes, it is the European and US summer period. Yes, prices do drop, but of course, at one point that also has to stop too. Don't forget how rare some of these cards are. Now looking at the Latias EX from Surging Sparks, this card's also had a pretty big price drop. Selling for $245 in January, right now selling for $153. Right now, a lot of people are wondering, is it now time to buy some of these cards? And when we're kind of thinking about it, can they continue to drop? Yes, there's always a chance. I'm definitely looking at some of these singles and saying, wow, some of the price drops have been far more significant than I thought. I think the Greninja probably surprised me a little bit. I think the Pikachu also surprised me. I think having the Magikarp recover has made a lot of people now monitor the market. Don't forget, when some of these cards start rising in price, people will jump on it too. You really need to be careful. Don't get fooled in massive momentum swings, but also you got to remember, if you were thinking about buying some of these cards, the price reductions have definitely happened, and now is kind of the time to decide, do I want to buy these cards or do I want to continue waiting? Of course, everyone's situation is different. Like I mentioned earlier, the Mew from Paldean Fates as well, selling for $421 in January, and man, that has really dropped down to $297 as well. Not as big as the Greninja, but definitely for the Bubble Mew, that is a big price drop. You can see around the same time last year, this card was selling for $86, and of course it had a massive price increase. Now, probably the Bubble Mew did go a little bit out of the realms of common sense, and I think what happened was Prismatic Evolutions and all those chase cards, too many new cards happened, collectors had to make decisions, and it kind of took some of the limelight away from this card, which is pretty good because I think the way this card was going, it just looked like no end in sight, dude. It was just like climbing, climbing, climbing. So seeing a bit of a price reversal has been quite good. Though again, again, like I said, I always feel the Bubble Mew is one of the more iconic cards from this era because it is unique. It's not a Pikachu. It's not a Charizard, it's not an Umbreon, it's its own thing, and I think this has also opened the doors for Mew chase cards in the future. Now, one that I find interesting is the Gengar VMAX, and of course, the reason why I find this interesting is because if you look at Fusion Strike booster box prices versus the Gengar VMAX, you can see right now that, hey, even if you pull the top chase card from Fusion Strike, you would actually lose money, which is wild because the situation for Sword and Shield booster boxes is just getting very strange. In April, the Gengar was selling for $644, right now selling for $581. And if you were lucky enough to pull it, you still would have lost money because Sword and Shield is just doing its thing at the moment. Same thing when we look at the Lugia V Alt Art from Silver Tempest, selling for $285, right now selling for $255. Not a huge price reduction like some of the other cards we've seen, but then again, a lot of people do like Lugia. This was a very desired card from Sword and Shield, not as desired as the Moonbryon or the Giratina V, but it did have its fan base there. Now, another one is the Giratina VSTAR from Crown Zenith, which is the top chase card from Crown Zenith. We can see it was selling for $214 US in January, where everything just went so high in price. You know, the whole Prismatic Evolutions boom, you know, Pokemon TCG Pocket, you know, Pokemon cards just became so wildly expensive during that era. And then it started really falling down, and right now selling for $152. You know, the Giratina VSTAR has definitely come down a lot in price since its high point in January, and Crown Zenith's not getting any cheaper at the moment. We will see where these cards level out. Don't forget, Crown Zenith didn't have that hard pull rates, but then again, is that really making a difference at this point? And some other ones that I'm just looking at the moment, but I do find them interesting, is both the Leafeon VSTAR and the Glaceon VSTAR. No real crazy price movements for these. The Leafeon is selling for $42 US, but you know, with how desired the evolutions are, I definitely wouldn't expect these to also continue dropping in any way. I do think that the evolutions always have a very big fan base. They have a huge amount of collectors that collect them. You know, if Crown Zenith keeps getting as rare as it's becoming, and every time I just hear someone mention Crown Zenith, people really love the set, I'm not surprised at that at all because I used to talk so highly of Crown Zenith, but you know, Crown Zenith took a long time to get loved. But right now, Crown Zenith is like so heavily desired. And same thing with the Glaceon VSTAR, selling for $36. Now, these haven't had any wild price increases or price decreases, but looking at these two cards, I do think they're in interesting positions. But of course, it's anyone's guess where things are going to go. And I do think the Pokemon market is right now in a weird time. But of course, what's going to happen in 6 months from now, I think everyone's really excited to see kind of what unfolds with all these cards. Now, as much as Pokemon cards and collecting is changing, there's actually a few reasons why I really love collecting and investing in Pokemon cards, and the exact reasons can be seen right here. Within this video that's currently appearing on screen, I go over why I personally love investing in collectibles. I really recommend that you click the video that's appearing on screen to learn more about that topic, and I'll see you on the next video.